Morbius, starring Jared Leto, is the first movie of its kind to sell 100 more billion tickets, and because it just hit streaming platforms, I was finally able to watch it. I hated it. You wanna know what else sold a lot of tickets? 9/11. And like 9/11, I joke about it a lot, but I never want it to happen again. This movie feels like a hangover. I watched it, fell asleep, and woke up the next morning covered in blood with no recollection of the previous night's events. There's not really any stakes, the characters don't develop or change at all, and the story overall is just forgettable. The way the whole vampire thing is handled in this movie is really inconsistent. It feels like the writers couldn't decide whether they wanted their vampires to be scientific or magical, and they kind of flip-flopped between the two. It's not rocket science. Writing consistent and good vampire characters has been done before. Blade, Toho Project, fucking Sesame Street. Meanwhile, in the first act of the movie, it's established that Morbius, who's supposed to be this decorated scientist, made the Morb juice that gave him his Morbium abilities. There's no actual name for this, I'm calling it that. The movie wants you to believe this is a scientific creation, but on top of superhuman strength, it can shapeshift, scale buildings, go through buildings, outspeed and maneuver around bullets, control bats, and fucking fly! With all these abilities though, you might think they'd use them to create really cool and unique action scenes, right? No. It's the kind of movie that relies heavily on rapidly changing shots full of CGI. You barely see anything happen, and for some odd reason in the movie about vampires, you know, the guys who drink blood and all that, they're really reluctant to actually show blood. It's a weird thing they keep doing where someone gets attacked and there's this really bloody sound effect that plays, but you don't see any blood. A guy gets his throat slashed and he just covers it up with his hands acting like he's bleeding out and you don't see anything. It makes it look like he choked on a biscuit. In the aftermath of the first scene where Morbius kills a bunch of generic bad guys,
all the bodies that you're looking at are nearly drained of their blood.
There's literally dirt smeared on the floor underneath the bodies to trick you into thinking they put blood into this movie. Speaking of killing a bunch of generic bad guys, this movie really wants to portray Morbius as a super dangerous guy who needs to constantly keep himself under control, because he doesn't want to lose his mind in an insane bloodlust and cause another mass morbing. But the problem with this is that the issue is solved almost immediately. You see, Morbius needs to drink blood every few hours or so to not go crazy. So is there any complex moral crisis about resorting to draining normal everyday people of their blood and potentially killing them? No. Morbius just happens to have artificial blood in his home because he happened to invent it sometime before the movie. Something else that the movie inaccurately tries to depict is that Morbius is supposed to be this morally gray type of guy. The tagline for this movie's advertising was, quote, "The line between hero and villain will be broken," end quote. But again, Morbius has this whole moral issue covered. He did something bad and he doesn't want to repeat that. He's objectively the good guy in this movie. So where is the movie's actual conflict? Enter Milo. Milo, played by Matt Smith, is a guy introduced in the movie's prologue when he and Morbius are children in a hospital who are both sick from some condition, which is a motivator for Morbius to create his signature juice. Milo visits Morbius after hearing about his Morb juice, and despite the Morb juice having extremely negative side effects, Morbius doesn't mention this at all despite trying to desperately convince Milo that taking the juice is bad. Just say it'll fucking kill you! Just say you're working out the side effects and it'll be done in a couple of months or something. Milo waited like several decades, he can wait a little longer. Milo, having not matured at all in his life, steals the Morb juice after Morbius gets conveniently arrested and put into police custody, and starts killing people instead of, using the artificial blood Morbius conveniently made to alleviate the side effects. I don't know why he started doing this. He wanted the Morb juice to cure his disease, not to commit serial murder. There's also probably a health risk when you're drinking random people's blood like he does. Imagine getting all these cool superpowers and what's basically invincibility only to die of AIDS. Milo visits Morbius in prison, pretending to be his lawyer. After Milo leaves, he leaves his cane and a pack of more blood for Morbius to drink, which allows him to smash through the prison walls and just leave. Morbius then confronts Milo, now knowing Milo is a vampire, and they get into a really forgettable chase sequence until they end up in a subway station. As a train approaches, instead of, throwing Milo in front of it and killing him, Morbius decides to jump in front of it and fly away, leaving Milo alone with a bunch of people in a densely populated area of the city after he tried to stop him from hurting them. Milo threatens a girl Morbius knows despite having no way to know about that connection, and the police are also after her for some reason. Morbius meets up with her in a restaurant before seeing some guys try to get change for a counterfeit bill at a register. Morbius then goes out of his way to hunt down those people before beating them up and stealing their lab they use to print counterfeit bills.
Stinky Pinky!
Which he somehow converts into a lab that allows him to make a cure for the Morb later. Morbius, for some reason, also says, "I am Venom," to one of the guys for no reason at all, and it made me physically wince.
I am.
Speaking of physically wincing, this next scene is,
Have sex, exhale, put my hands against, put my best against, put my 10 or put my spend. Have sex, exhale. Ultimately fully casual, vala. Tingani tandi besho, vala. Tandi tashi tandi hesho, vala. I funi kati funi kesho.
After this scene, he goes to a club and starts talking to a woman, which, with the previous scene in mind with that song, makes Milo look more like a serial rapist than a charismatic killer. Some guys in the woman's group cut him off, and Milo offers to pay for their drinks, to which one guy responds by attacking him for some reason. Milo then leaves and kills the guys later in a bitch fit. Then the television starts openly reporting on vampires attacking people despite them not knowing enough about Morbius or Milo to really make a detailed story about who they are. They just see low-quality CCTV footage of a guy with superhuman abilities and then immediately jump to the conclusion of, oh, vampires, of course. Then Milo kills the old guy we saw at the beginning of the movie for like a total of 5 minutes. Before he dies, he calls Morbius, who quickly arrives at the scene before said old guy dies. Meanwhile, Milo is taking Morbius's female acquaintance, I really can't remember her name, sorry, hostage for some reason. And Morbius can hear cries of help through echolocation from the opposite end of the fucking city somehow, so he goes to rescue her. Girl, I'm not looking up her name, appears like she's dying, but Morbius kissed her and got some of his HIV blood on her, so she'll obviously live. Spoilers, she does. Morbius gets angry and fights Milo. They throw each other around for a bit before they end up underground, where Morbius reveals to Milo that he can control bats because of something in his blood or some shit. Milo grabs a pipe and instead of swinging it around like a helicopter blade that could easily take care of the bat swarm, decides to lunge at Morbius. At normal speed, mind you, not super fast vampire speed. Before, and I shit you not, Morbius fucking kamehamehas Milo with bats. It was the stupidest fucking thing I saw in this entire movie. It's a bunch of normal-ass bats flying towards a guy whose powers allow him to survive smashing himself through multiple concrete walls. After that, Morbius injects Milo with the science juice and leaves. We don't know if Milo dies or not, or just goes back to normal. The writers weren't feeling that confident. I don't even think they know if he's dead or alive yet. Then Morbius flies out because of the movie, and the movie is just done there. It's finally over. Let's talk about why that's the most disappointing shit ever. Do you not realize what kind of characters you have here? You have a duel between people who are extremely overpowered and almost impossible to kill. Give them weapons or something. Make the fight look like the most destructive thing a city's seen since the fall of the World Trade... Oh, fuck, I've already used that joke. Give them a gun or a sword or a fucking stick. Anything that isn't their fists. Make that shit look like a Devil May Cry boss or something else over the top. I don't care how stupid it looks. It's a lot better than this. They just punch each other until Morbius turns into fucking Goku and makes Milo take his flu shot. After the whole ordeal with Milo, there's absolutely nothing left for Morbius to do. There's no character development, no foreseeable challenges for Morbius to get over in the near future, and zero weaknesses to his character. The movie just kind of ends here. They had to throw in 2 mid-credit scenes where a guy basically teleports in front of Morbius in the middle of nowhere, and asks him to join his bad guy squad, and Morbius agrees to it after talking to this guy for less than a minute. It's not because it's in his character, But because he needs something to do when they use him for some future movie, because everything has to be part of a cinematic universe now. It's Morbin time. Oh man. It's Morbin time. It's Morbin time. I'm gonna morb. It's Morbin. I'm Morbin. Hey, it's Morbin. He's gonna morb out. He's gonna. I'll morb heads. Morbin time. Required to start morbing out right now. Morbin time. Guys, Morbin time is now. Morbin right now. It's Morbin time. He didn't say that? What the fuck?
My name is Fubuki Shirakami. Nice to meet you.
Wow, it's so.
Why didn't you say the line?